My name is Arthur Whitmore, and what I'm about to tell you isn't just about age, it's about betrayal. At 76, my own daughter and her husband tried to erase me from the very home where my life was built. What happened next shocked even me. Stay with me, because the way this story ends will leave you stunned. But first, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment with where you're watching from. Your support gives me the drive to bring you more powerful, true-style stories like this one. I had given 38 years of my life as a rescue worker, running toward collapsing roofs and smoke while others ran away. Those years left me scarred but proud. When I finally retired, all I wanted was peace, to sip coffee from the worn cup my late wife Helen adored, to water the lilies she tended by the porch, and to sit quietly in the armchair she once claimed as her spot. But peace doesn't last when greed walks through your door. To my daughter Claire and her husband Victor, I wasn't a father anymore. I was an obstacle. They whispered about community care, about safety, about how Silver Pines Lodge had a room already waiting for me. Their words sounded like kindness, but every Sunday meal turned into a cross-examination. Did you pay the bills? Did you forget the stove? Are you eating enough? They weren't checking on me. They were building a case. That Thursday, I tried one last time to remind Claire what this house meant. I cooked chicken and dumplings the way Helen once did, set out fresh flowers, and laid the lace table runner Claire had admired years earlier. When they arrived late, Victor strode in as if the walls already belonged to him, dropping into Helen's armchair with the remote in hand. Claire stayed standing, wearing a green dress I'd given her on a birthday long ago. She didn't smile. She didn't even hug me. Instead, her first words were, "Dad, we need to, talk." It wasn't a conversation. It was a sentence. A letter from a lawyer already waited on the table. My supposed new life at Silver Pines had been arranged without me. They wanted my signature, nothing more. I tried to fight back, reminding her this was where Helen took her last breath, where Claire scraped her knees riding her first bike, where I carried her home after a school play she thought she ruined. It wasn't just wood and nails. It was a legacy. Claire wouldn't meet my eyes. Victor leaned forward, flashing a curling grin. Walls don't hold memories. People do. Be reasonable. Sign the papers. We'll take care of everything. That was when I knew. This wasn't concern. This was theft, disguised as love. My hand shook as I pushed the papers back across the table. Not today. For the first time, Victor's composure fractured, his grin thinned. Then tomorrow, you don't really have a choice. That night, the house felt colder than ever. Every photograph on the wall seemed to watch me in silence. For the first time in my life, I questioned if I really was just an old man waiting for others to write my ending. But as midnight passed, something inside me reignited. They thought age meant weakness. They were about to see just how wrong they were. The following evening, they returned without courtesy. No food, no small talk. Victor carried a tan legal folder, his shoes dragging over the hardwood floor like he was already victorious. Claire followed like a shadow, her gaze fixed on the floor. Out of habit, I had cooked again. Roast beef, potatoes, and gravy, the meal she always begged for on birthdays. The candles burned, the plates waited, but they didn't touch a thing. Victor spread the folder open with the confidence of a salesman. "Arthur, the property transfer is ready, only your signature is missing." I didn't need to read it. I could already feel the trap. "You're moving quickly," I said. "Because it's in your best interest," he answered smoothly, his voice rehearsed. "You can't handle this place alone. Think of it as a gift." A gift? My life? Wrapped as generosity? Claire finally raised her head, her eyes glassy. "Dad, please don't fight this. At Silver Pines, you'll be safe. Nurses on duty, people your age, activities." Her voice wavered halfway, but she steadied herself as though rehearsed. I slid the papers back across the table. "This isn't about safety. This is about control. And you know it. Victor's grin faltered. Arthur refusing doesn't make sense. You've already had slips, stove left on, bills misplaced. That was the moment my voice rose without warning. That's a lie. And you both know it. Claire flinched, and for a second I saw my daughter again, the child who once clung to me after nightmares. But then Victor placed his hand on hers, and the softness vanished. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. If you won't sign today, we'll take another route. Legal avenues, hearings about mental capacity. Judges don't side with men your age, Arthur. Think carefully. Victor's voice cut like a blade. Judges don't side with men your age, Arthur. Think carefully. The way he flattened my name, like it meant nothing, sent heat rushing through me. I pushed myself upright, gripping the table for balance. This is my house. I built this life with my own hands, and I won't be thrown out as if I overstayed my welcome. His eyes narrowed. You think stubbornness makes you strong? It makes you prey. Courts devour men like you. I leaned close, lowering my voice to a growl. Or maybe you've forgotten who you're talking to. I walked into fire when men like you ran from smoke. For the first time, his polished mask slipped. Just a flicker, but I saw it. Claire jolted up, her chair scraping across the floor. We'll come back, she snapped, her voice clipped, final. She grabbed her coat without glancing at the meal I had laid out. Victor trailed behind, but not before leaning close, the sting of cologne sharp between us. You have 10 days, he muttered. After that, I won't ask again. The door slammed so hard the frames rattled. Silence swelled through the room, heavy as stone. The candles sputtered out, leaving trails of smoke curling in the dim light. The plates of untouched roast sat cooling, a bitter reminder. 10 days. That was all they were giving me. Sleep wouldn't come that night. I sat in Helen's armchair, listening to the house groan under the weight of secrets. Rain tapped steadily at the window, each drop echoing like a countdown. 10 days until strangers boxed up my life. 10 days until my daughter's name erased me from my own walls. I closed my eyes and tried to picture Helen. The way she smiled when I came home with smoke still clinging to me. She always said I carried the fire inside, that it was both my gift and my curse. Tonight, that ember felt dangerously close to dying. I wandered the house like a man haunting his own past. My fingers brushed the painted walls, the photographs along the hallway, Claire's baby picture, her first steps in this living room, winter feasts filled with laughter. They wanted me to believe these memories could be packed into boxes and traded for a key at Silver Pines Lodge. But this place wasn't just lumber. It was stitched together with every sacrifice Helen and I had made. My steps carried me into the study, a room I hadn't touched in years. Helen used to call it Arthur's bunker. The desk sat scarred with coffee rings, its drawers stuffed with receipts and old manuals from the firehouse. I pulled open the top drawer, faded papers, nothing more. But wedged under a stack of envelopes lay a small iron key, nearly forgotten. My breath caught. I remembered Helen once teasing, "My father left you puzzles." At the time I laughed it off. Now my eyes landed on the bottom drawer, the one that had always resisted opening. My hands shook as I slid the key in. The lock clicked with finality. Inside lay a heavy tan legal folder bound in twine. On the corner, in Helen's neat handwriting, were 2 words, "For Arthur." I sank back into the chair, heart pounding. The folder smelled of dust and age, but something about it felt alive, as though it had been waiting. I untied the twine and lifted the first page. Not a bill, not a manual. A will. Dated 8 months before Helen passed. Page after page blurred before my eyes. Holdings, shares, savings accounts, beyond anything I imagined. And then the clause that froze my hands. Everything was left to me. Every brick, every acre, every cent. Claire would only inherit if she treated me with respect. Victor's name was absent, deliberately erased. At the bottom was a letter, Helen's writing shaky but fierce. Arthur, if you're reading this, it means you've been cornered. I feared Victor's charm would blind Claire. This is your shield. Don't use it for revenge. Use it to protect. Stand tall. You've faced fire before. You can face this too. The words blurred as tears spilled unchecked down my cheeks. All those nights I thought she rested quietly beside me. She had been planning, protecting, leaving me armor hidden in ink and paper. For the first time in days, dread loosened its grip. Victor believed he had me trapped. Claire thought I was powerless. They were about to discover the fire inside me hadn't gone out. It had only been waiting. Morning light seeped through the curtains, but I hadn't slept. The folder lay open on the desk, pages spread like evidence ready for trial. The numbers stunned me. Rental properties, bank accounts, even deposits from tenants I never knew existed. Helen hadn't just left me comfort. She had built an empire in silence. I traced my hand across the pages, struggling to believe what I was seeing. For years I thought Helen had lived with nothing but thrift, stretching every dollar, polishing worn furniture until it gleamed, clipping coupons as if pennies could save us. But hidden beneath that quiet discipline, she had been constructing something far greater. A net strong enough to catch me if I ever fell. The more I read, the more her intent became clear. Those clauses weren't lawyers' fluff. They were shields. Respect your father or lose it all. She hadn't trusted Victor from the beginning. She must have seen through him long before Claire ever dragged him into our home for dinner. I flipped to the bank statements. Month after month of lease payments. The address froze me. It was their address. The very tenement where Claire and Victor lived. For years, they thought they were paying some landlord across town. All that money had been flowing into an account Helen opened in my name. A curling grin tugged at my lips, something I hadn't felt in a long time. Victor had lectured me about being impractical, about losing grip on responsibility. The irony nearly made me choke. He'd been living under my roof the entire time, never even knowing it. Tucked at the back of the folder was another letter, shorter, sharper, written in Helen's unsteady hand. Arthur, I know you'll want to forgive too quickly. Don't. Make them feel the weight of their choices. You once taught men to respect fire by showing its heat. Teach Claire to respect family the same way. Her words struck deep. Forgiveness had always been my instinct. At the firehouse, grudges burned out fast. Life was too fragile to carry bitterness. But this wasn't smoke. This was betrayal in my own bloodline. I read the will again, twice, a third time, until the meaning settled into my bones. I wasn't powerless. I wasn't waiting to be erased. I was the legal owner of more than I had ever imagined. The phone rang that afternoon. Claire's voice spilled into voicemail, soft, careful. Dad, Victor thinks we should stop by tomorrow, just to talk. The old me might have melted at that tone. Not anymore. I could hear Victor's script in every word. I sat staring at the receiver, wishing for the daughter who once ran into my arms uncoached, unafraid. But that voice was gone, buried under his poison. By nightfall, my decision was made. The next time they crossed my threshold with movers and practiced smiles, they wouldn't meet a weary man clinging to the past. They would meet the man Helen prepared me to be, the man who still carried fire. I stacked the documents, tied the folder neatly, and left it on the desk where it couldn't be missed. I wanted them to feel the shift the moment they saw it. At dawn, I shaved, buttoned a pressed shirt, and brewed coffee strong enough to steady my hands. The folder waited in the open. Helen's handwriting on the cover whispered, "Stand tall." At 9 sharp, their car rolled into the drive. Through the curtain, I watched Victor straighten his tie like he was walking into a business deal. Claire trailed behind, head down, clutching her small handbag, as though it could shield her. They entered without knocking. Victor spoke first. "Arthur, movers are coming at noon. Let's not drag this out." I gestured toward the desk. "Before you move anything, take a look." Curiosity overpowered him. He untied the twine, scanned the first page. His face was drained of color. The curling grin vanished. He flipped page after page, faster, more frantic. "What is this?" he muttered. "Legal records," I said calmly, steam rising from my mug. "Deeds, statements, a will, everything Helen left me." Claire stepped closer, whispering as if the truth terrified her. "Dad, you own the building." "Our building?" I nodded. "Every payment you've made went straight to me. You've been under my roof the whole time." Victor slammed the folder shut, pacing now, pulling at his tie like it was choking him. "This doesn't change anything. You're old, Arthur. Courts don't side with men your age." I leaned forward. "Courts side with facts, and these papers are facts. Try me." For a long moment, the room was still. Claire's breathing came shallow, her face pale. Victor prowled the floor like a caged animal. "Even if it's true," he barked, "you wouldn't dare put your daughter on the street. That would make you the monster." I held his gaze. "You're right. I wouldn't. But you came here ready to make me homeless. So tell me, Victor, who's the real monster?" Claire flinched, tears spilling over. For a heartbeat, she looked like the girl who once clung to me after bad dreams. But then Victor's hand landed heavy on her shoulder, stiffening her spine. He whispered something sharp into her ear, and slowly, reluctantly, she nodded. Claire's voice trembled. "Dad, I'm pregnant." The words struck harder than any fire hose I'd ever faced. My knees threatened to give, but I gripped the desk to stay upright. A grandchild. It should have been joy, but at that moment it sounded like a bargaining chip. Victor leaned in instantly. "See? You wouldn't cast out the mother of your grandchild. Not if you have any decency left." I studied Claire's tear-streaked face. Her pain was real, but her eyes begged me not to surrender, begged me not to hand him another victory. I set down my mug and straightened my back. "Congratulations, Claire, but don't mistake love for weakness. This house, this legacy, won't be turned into Victor's chain." His jaw tightened. "You're bluffing. You don't have the stomach for this fight." I tapped the tan legal folder against the desk. "Try me. You have 28 days to find another place. After that, the law will do the work for me." Claire gasped. Victor's face twisted with rage. He leaned across the desk, breath hot, spit sharp. "If you think this ends here, old man, you're wrong. I'll bury you in court." I didn't blink. "Then I'll see you there." For the first time since Helen's funeral, I felt alive. Not because I'd won, but because I'd finally stopped bending. The tribunal hall smelled of polished wood and dust. I had walked through fire without hesitation, but that morning my palms sweated, not from heat, but from betrayal. 2 benches away sat my daughter, her hands folded protectively over her stomach, her eyes fixed on the floor. Victor loomed beside her, whispering into her ear like a serpent coiling tighter. Their lawyer rose first, smooth suit, smoother tongue. He painted me as a stubborn relic, clinging to a house I couldn't manage, manipulating Claire, isolating her. Words like incapacity and unfit struck like blows meant to strip away my dignity. I kept my gaze fixed on the man presiding above. Judge Harrington studied us with the patience of a craftsman, measuring before cutting. When my turn came, my attorney laid out Helen's folder, page by page. Deeds, bank records, letters. Every sheet landed on the table with weight louder than any speech. Victor scoffed, shaking his head as if the papers were smoke. "Fabrications," he spat, loud enough for the room to hear. The judge adjusted his glasses, lifting a document. His eyes lingered, then shifted to me. "Mr. Whitmore," he said slowly, "do you recall the spring of 1974? The question stole my breath. "Yes, Your Honor." "But why?" His voice softened. "There was a fire on Ashwood Lane, a tenement building. I was 13. My mother was trapped inside." The memory surged back, the heat, the screaming child clinging to the sidewalk as I carried his mother down 3 flights of smoke and flame. Judge Harrington's jaw tightened. It was you. You were the rescue worker who carried her out. The room froze. Pens stopped moving. Claire turned her head sharply, eyes wide. For the first time, Victor's composure fractured. The judge removed his glasses, voice steady but thick with memory. I never forgot. I never forgot the man who told me, "Stay calm, kid, I'll bring your mother out." That man was you. The silence was heavy, unbreakable. Victor's lawyer sprang to his feet. Your Honor, this is irrelevant. Surely a conflict of interest. The gavel cracked like thunder. Sit down. Judge Harrington's eyes never left mine. This court does not forget courage, nor does it excuse deceit. He turned another page. The evidence is clear. Mr. Whitmore is the rightful owner of all contested property. The accusations of incapacity are malicious and unfounded. Victor's face reddened, veins straining at his temples. He leaned into Claire, whispering in frantic bursts. She shook her head, tears spilling over. For once, she wasn't listening. The judge's voice cut like an axe. Mr. Victor Langston, your conduct amounts to coercion and attempted exploitation of an elder. This court will refer the matter for investigation. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Victor's head snapped toward me, rage burning in his eyes. I sat still, hands folded, gaze steady. The gavel struck again. Case dismissed. Judgment in favor of Arthur Whitmore. Claire wept openly. Victor cursed under his breath. And me? I sat in silence, not triumphant, not smug, but steady, as though Helen's hand rested on my shoulder. This wasn't about revenge. It was about dignity. But as we left the hall, Victor shoved past me, muttering under his breath, "We're not done here." On that point, he wasn't lying. Men like Victor don't accept defeat. They unravel. 2 weeks later, Fairmont was buzzing. Neighbors who once tipped their hats to him now crossed the street. Everyone had heard the ruling, and the details spread faster than smoke in the wind. Respect disappears quickly when a man is caught trying to strip his own father-in-law of everything. The collapse came fast. Victor's proud position at the investment office downtown was gone within days. No favors, no mercy. The senior associates had read the court filings themselves. Exploiting an elder doesn't look good in quarterly reports. Claire told me that Friday morning his desk had been cleared without ceremony. No farewell lunch, just an escort out the door. At night, shouting echoed through the thin walls of their apartment. Yes, my apartment. Tenants complained about slammed doors and arguments spilling into the hallway. I warned him once, calm and direct. Victor, these are my walls. Test me again, and you'll be gone in 28 days. He sneered, but I caught the flicker of fear behind it. Claire began slipping away from him more often. She'd stop by my house with excuses, dropping off groceries, asking if I needed anything. But I knew she just needed air. We'd sit with coffee from my worn cup, and in her nervous laugh, I glimpsed the child she once was. Each smile widened the cracks in his grip. Cracks make desperate men dangerous. One evening, after sunset, pounding shook my door. When I opened it, Victor stood red-eyed, soaked in whiskey, his tie loose around his neck. "You think you've beaten me?" he slurred, shoving his finger into my chest. "You ruined me in court, poisoned Claire against me, destroyed my career. You stole everything." I kept my voice steady. "You did that to yourself." His voice rose. "You don't deserve any of it. You're nothing but a relic waiting to fade." Before I could answer, Claire appeared at the top of the stairs. "Victor, stop!" Her voice trembled, but she didn't move toward him. For once, she wasn't standing at his side. He turned on her, eyes wild. "You're with him now? After all I gave you?" Her answer was quiet, but sharp as glass. "What you gave me was fear." Victor's face twisted, fury and disbelief tangled together. Words failed him. Instead, he stumbled down the steps, muttering curses into the dark, his shadow shrinking as he vanished into the street. I shut the door, and only then did my hands begin to shake. Claire stood frozen, one hand on her stomach, the other pressed to her lips. "Dad," she whispered, tears spilling over. "I think it's over." I wanted to believe her, but men like Victor don't burn out. They smolder. Weeks passed. The building grew quiet again. Victor drifted out of Fairmont like smoke from a dying fire, angry, directionless, leaving only bitterness in his wake. Claire stayed. At first it was awkward. She moved back into her old room, walls still lined with faded posters, and we circled one another like strangers. Breakfasts were stiff, groceries, weather, her morning sickness. But slowly, the rhythm returned. She washed dishes without asking, tended Helen's lilies by the porch, even pressed my shirts the way her mother once did. One afternoon, while I was sorting through Helen's last papers, Claire entered with a small satin pouch trembling in her hands. "I took these when I thought Victor was right," she whispered. Inside were Helen's engagement band, her earrings, and her mother's chain. She lowered her head. "I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want you to have them back." I took the pouch gently. Its weight was more memory than metal. "Forgiveness isn't something you earn," I told her. "It's something you live up to." Her eyes brimmed, but she nodded, ready to try. As the seasons turned, my granddaughter was born. Holding tiny Sophie in my arms, I felt hope return. Not fragile, but strong. Helen's voice echoed in my mind. "Don't just protect. Teach." I understood when an elderly neighbor came to me one afternoon. Her children were pressuring her to sell her house. She'd heard my story. "How did you stand up to them?" she whispered. That was the moment I knew Helen's legacy wasn't meant to end with me. With Claire's help, I used part of the holdings to launch a foundation, a refuge where older men and women could find legal aid, dignity, and strength when their families betrayed them. We called it Second Chance House. Within a year, we had helped a dozen people push back against exploitation. Sitting with them at kitchen tables, I repeated the same words I once had to remind myself. "You're not powerless. Age doesn't erase your worth." Watching the light return to their eyes, I could almost hear Helen's laughter in the background. One warm afternoon, I stood on the porch as children played in the garden of the Foundation's first home. Claire rocked Sophie nearby, sunlight tangled in her hair. She looked at me and said, "Dad, you turned our worst days into hope for others. Mom would be proud." I didn't answer right away. I was watching Sophie's tiny fingers curl around Claire's hand, watching the woman my daughter was becoming, not the one Victor tried to mold, but the one Helen and I had always believed was there. Finally, I said, "Pride doesn't even cover it." That night, as the cicadas sang outside my window, I sat in Helen's armchair with tea at my side. Her photo rested on the table, her smile frozen in time, but her voice alive in every step I'd taken since. I wasn't a relic waiting to fade. I wasn't just a rescue worker retired from the field. I was a husband, a father, a grandfather, and now a guardian for others like me. The fire inside me hadn't gone out. It had only changed shape, burning not to consume, but to guide.